big hip swing, more muscular turn.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Europe is Coming podcast. Apologies we weren't on last week. We had a programming live in our place. And my name's Adam Giles, and as ever, I'm joined by John Singleton. Hello, John. How are you?
I'm good. We're still in the semi-final period. So it's quite a long period.
Well, we've done all of the in-person stuff now, so we've got all the qualifiers out of the in-persons. But yeah, we've got this online to go, and I think the teams start now, right? And then next week it's individuals, or
I think teams are this weekend, and then I definitely know individuals is this. Like teams would just pass, and then individuals happen this weekend.
Yeah, so all to play for, and there's a lot of individuals still to qualify via. I was looking down a bit of a list the other day, and there's a lot of indies still to go, huh?
It's stacked, and like we say, when you start looking at that field of just how many athletes you need to get through, it's going to be tough to qualify. You're going to need the workouts to play out in your favor, and that's for each and every one of them. Has it got a heavy bias? Has it got conditioning, etc., etc.? You will probably see a different group of athletes go through. You've got multiple time winning games athletes in there, and even still, it might be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got anyone in particular that you think we're going to see come through? Have you got any favorites?
Honestly, I think it just depends on the programming. So you go if you go super heavy, say deadlift, you've got three athletes like Colin Bossard, Jonakowski, even Colton Mertens, who you put like a super heavy deadlift like they had in the Masters, that can start to take those guys out. But then if that's not in there, you've got those three guys also tend to excel at the classic online style workout, so you think those in there. Mm-hmm. You've got to put Justin Medeiros in just because he's won the games twice. So there's no way you can't put him in. With that list, I think there's probably like 15 names on the list that I wouldn't be surprised they went through. So for every place, you have at least two athletes who could take that place.
Yeah. And you were at the Mad Fitness Festival last weekend before, sorry. Was it last weekend?
Yeah, it's
last weekend.
It's
all blurring into one for me.
It is.
Yeah, how was it?
It was excellent. I'm obviously biased, and the feedback. Well, it's interesting. I searched for feedback from across all the divisions, and it was really interesting to hear people going through the weekend. I was super happy with how the races played out, because you do all the work on paper, but you don't know how it's going to play out on the floor. And the snatch ladder, we had a lot of pushback on for a number of reasons. But then especially seeing Agnol finish, he went through the ladder, he failed 120. And that maybe even taken him out of the games spot, or at least been close. Then got through, then makes the final bar, gets a couple of overhead squats in, and then his reaction after was just so epic. And I think it just makes the competition. Then all of a sudden a workout, we had a lot of back and forth on getting the permissions to do this strict press rope climb. The races at the end with Callum, with Yonne, with Agnol, it just played out. And then the final, not knowing what's going to happen, who's going to qualify, it was really exciting. Sorry, my phone was just going off and turn it off.
Just showing how busy this period is for you at the moment. We've got a slightly condensed recording window tonight, team. So apologies for that. But yeah, John is a man in demand at the moment.
Yeah, it's a busy period, but it's nice. There's some cool opportunities that we're trying to make the most of. But nice. I'm happy we kept the consistency of the podcast.
Yes, me too, as always. So I'll bring up on screen 2 seconds. So qualifiers coming out of the Mad Fitness Festival. For the men, we had Anna Lakai, and then Gabby Magala came first for the ladies, and CrossFit Asuka Krieger with the team that qualified, and then Luis Cuella came.
Yeah.
Thank you for always keeping me honest with the pronunciation there, John. Lucy McGonigal, who I think a lot of us expected to get through, and had kind of went to a few semi-finals and made it through MAD. So good to see her after her rookie year. Was it last year? I think her rookie year, kind of going back to back. Callum coming in third place, Callum Clements, and then Ella Wilkinson, another Brit. So my bias is complete there. Now we've got Ella making it as well, who seems to be, and we talked about it after one of the WFP episodes, but seems to be really starting to growing into the elite competition now, and being a bit of a mainstay in top heats and in and around the games conversation.
Yeah, and the nice thing was, so we can go through. I think in a similar vein, maybe not as extreme as Turin, but you could have taken this down to fourth, at least fourth place, and all of those athletes would be legit at the games. It was like the level for these 3 spots was super high, and it was great seeing Ella all weekend. She really impressed me on the floor, and even in workouts that I think that classically she might not have done well at, she really seemed to have improved. There was some controversy. I think it came out at the start of the week with the third place. We have no knowledge of the judging and things like that behind the scenes, which honestly I'm quite happy about, because it just takes us completely out of these things. And I'm sure there were hard decisions in the back. And honestly, like I said, I think it's nice for us because we have like quite personal relationships with the athletes, all these things. And so when it comes down to these high pressure judging moments, it's nice to be removed from that. But yeah, unfortunately, there was some controversy on the end, and that's what made it so exciting, in the same way that everything came down to milliseconds or 1 placing, 2 placing for claiming those spots. And that's why it was an exciting competition. Like 1 placing either way would have made or lost the games ticket.
Yeah, the one a bit of noise I saw was around Callum and the sandbag event seemed to throw up. And I was going to ask you about it and just see what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, so I actually didn't hear about any appeals. Okay, first thing,
really,
as an idea, and I think that CrossFit should do this, is actually make the appeals process transparent. So what happens in the official way is that, take count. He puts an appeal in, and then that gets listed on game site or whatever. Callum appealed whatever the appeal is. His full appeal gets written in there. CrossFit's or appeals decision, we've awarded this because of this. Because what happens is during a weekend, like, leaderboard will just jump around and people don't know why, what's happened, who's got what. And I think actually the athletes would think more about the appeals that they then do. And I also think it's sensible that CrossFit, like in tennis, limit the number of appeals you can do. Then if it's successful, it gets rewarded back, whatever. But I think having a transparent system. So the first I heard about it was actually after just before the prize giving ceremony. Yoni came up as well, and I think what had happened is, like, he'd been awarded a sandbag clean for doing more double unders, and that's how close it was, those 3 points, because the 1 sandbag clean put him in a higher position. At the end of the weekend, that higher position was him beating Yoni. And the craziest thing about it all was everyone thought Yoni had gone through, because in theory, in the final heat, he'd done enough to make it.
To win.
But there was some random guy, and I remember watching the workout, like, wow, he's done really well. There's some random guy in the first heat. And like there were a lot of athletes competing, like 48 athletes. So usually the first heat is significantly worse than the top heat, just because of that. There's just not the depth at that level, and even in an elite competition, you wouldn't see that many. And so while most athletes were finishing in like 6 minutes or getting to the time cap, this guy came in 3 minutes something, whatever it was. I was just like, wow. And it turns out that he just managed to get in between Yoni and Callum in the final. So if he'd have been a few seconds quicker and actually won the workout and beat Callum, he wouldn't have factored in. But just because he sandwiched himself in, this random guy from the first heat, he also ended up playing into this dynamic. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was exciting. But yeah, I do feel for, it's never nice situations. In some ways, it's not nice for Callum. In some ways, he did get his game spot though, so there's a winning in that. And then, obviously feel sad for Yoni. He's like such a great athlete. I've known him since he was like in 2014 when he first qualified to the game. So it's like 12 years on. And last year, I think he missed. I might need to double check this, but he was like one place out from qualifying in person in both, I think, and then went online and was like one place out from qualifying.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, thinking back. Hopefully that's not the same again this year.
So then now goes to Madrid and wants, it's like 4, because I think that, there was an unfortunate stat with Yoni as well, where he was the first ever person to win quarterfinals, like win Open, win quarterfinals, and then not go to the games.
Mm.
The other thing about, so let's hope, obviously like to see Yoni back at the games. So I think this marks, it will be like his 10th year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been around for a while now, and I know he's also had some injury problems as well. That is when he was really on the rise in the games and stuff, kind of took him out for a few seasons. I was also, as you were talking there, I was thinking about the judging and the appeals system that we don't really talk about all that much when it comes to the games. It is sort of like, we know it happens, but we kind of, apart from the odd bad judging call, it kind of doesn't really get spoken about that much from what I can tell. And the one that sprung to mind was from the 2017 games where Cara Webb and Tia having this epic race with the cat for the podium. And I can't remember exactly what workout it is. I think there might have been some thrusters and double unders or something. It was one of those workouts. And Cara, her judge, basically is like, go. And she doesn't do like 5 of the final reps or something. And there's a bit of a hoo-ha about it and stuff. But and they sort it out. And I think their judgment was pretty spot on. And the hard thing is, because it's the unknown and unknowable, it's hard to really have standardized judging and policies for what happens when someone doesn't do the reps. But do you think that maybe as you program the event, that there needs to be some kind of judging organization that works with programmers to kind of come up with some of these things to build in some fail safes, or is that over engineering it?
No, so I think that even needs to go beyond that. And I completely agree that it's very hard to improve processes when things constantly change.
Mm.
And I think standardizing certain things is really useful. One of the reasons that we wanted to put this seated dumbbell press in, ironically, there were some things around it that's right. But it's like a really hard movement to cheat around. And I do think at a certain point, like movement selection becomes very important in order to not have judging issues. In this instance, in the Callum one, it was like it wasn't about calling no reps or whatever. It was like, okay, there's an appeal that he'd done too much work and then gets granted back, because you can't give time in a workout like that. You have there's an AMRAP in essence, so you have to give a rep. Or do you have to give a rep? But it's like all of these things play out. And when a competition's so close, it becomes very unexpected and what you do. And I do think that, I don't know if it's an independent body that should be in charge of judging and everything that goes through, but I think it would definitely help having clear standards. Especially for movements that are consistent across competitions, like a bar-facing burpee. What are the standards of a bar-facing burpee? Can everyone agree on? And sometimes you look at the minutiae, like the 2-foot takeoff thing. It's hard to judge, but at least if you can come to an accepted guideline, or with the ring muscle up, or snatch, etc., you then have this standard protocol from the movements, and you still, honestly, I've mentioned this before, but like in triathlon, even with triathlon, you could have with three skills in essence, or 3 movement domains. You could have so much variance just within that sport. Like imagine you go to a triathlon race, all you know is that you're going to be running, swimming, and biking, but you don't know what order, you don't know the distances. So there's a lot of variances with 3 things. So now with CrossFit, there's over 200 movements that have been used in official competition. It's an infinite number of variants. And I think there's I don't see the benefit of not standardizing the movements to make people's life easier, because they're movements that we see come up so much.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard because after the fact, then some, people want to call certain people out for being responsible. And I think, the competition team obviously made a judgment call on Callum and how to kind of try and level the playing field on that workout. And some people are obviously going to think that it's not a great way of doing it. Some people will be like, no, it seems sensible to me. And because there isn't more standardization in the way that those calls are made, I think it is hard to.
And you could kind of be like, okay, so 15, and it's very context specific, because you can't go 15 double unders is the same as 15 rope climbs, obviously. So, but you could maybe allocate, say, 15 beaded rope double unders equate typically to this much time. And then you could go like, well, does this much time then equate to a classic sandbag clean across the average of what so you could have these calculations for the workouts in place already. And should an appeal come in about doing too much work, like I think Fabi also had an appeal about like stopping on the ring muscle-ups or something like that, but at least there's some kind of pre-written formula that you could use. And obviously it would evolve, but it's a starting point to come through. And someone, Brent Fikowski, has done a tireless amount of work in order to do that. And also the IF3, they've also done a lot of work, because they have to for the Olympic standards, in order to think through and come through all of these aspects.
Yeah, I think I in slightly off topic, but when Brent retired, I was hoping that he was going to get into some of this more. And it's a bit, not that it's Brent's job to do so, but it's a bit of a shame that we don't seem to have that in the space at the moment, and anyone kind of carrying that torch and doing that work. And I suppose it's a bit of a thankless task as well.
I don't think many people know just how much work Brent has put into that stuff. Like, and when I first spoke to him, this is a number of years ago now, but he was like, I'll send you over some of the documents I put together. I was like, okay, cool. Oh my, like the documents that he sent through, it's just hundreds of pages of information. And that was kind of like at the start of his documenting journey. And for every movement, every outcome, he'd really gone through and thought about all of these things. And like, there wasn't enough momentum to carry it through. And they kind of drew the line in the sand when they said about the Castro thing after 24. And I think after that, it got very hard for them to
continue.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's a real shame. I mean, I got the sense that he put a lot of effort into it, hearing him on podcasts and stuff, but I didn't quite know the extent of the documentation. And it's a shame that when people offer you free help to make what you do better, it's a shame when it's not taken up.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like the CrossFit sport team. So like CrossFit's divided into these 3. You've got affiliation, education, sport. And there's like 10 people or so, or roughly that number within sport, that ultimately control the sport. You would think, one thing I also find crazy is no one international. Like in CrossFit HQ, that is CrossFit, there's no one international at least employed. And there's no one international on the sport team. And you would think, why would you not have a better representation of the sport in the place that controls the sport? I think it's like a really important thing to do, to have people, you should have people from Latin America, people from Europe, people from Asia or wherever it may be, because they'll bring ideas that, just through natural biases that people have, you won't think of because of the culture that you've been raised in. It will probably help grow the sport internationally, which you would think should be a clear goal.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on this again in future episodes. We do talk about this kind of theme quite a lot, and hopefully there's going to be some positive change around this to come. But just before we run out of time, we'll have a quick look at the Syndicate Crown, which was a really cool event. I thought the broadcast was really good. I obviously watched it on the broadcast, and it was Mr. Andrew Hiller was putting out content as well, so we got some behind the scenes from this event, which was the only sad thing from MAD, that there wasn't really any media content creators in Europe at the MAD Fitness Festival. So the content was kind of the live stream, and that was it. There wasn't really any behind the scenes. But on the Syndicate Crown, Saxon Panchek took the win. Ty Jenkins and Austin Hatfield came in third. Nate Ackerman just missing out. Was really tight in this comp as well. You kind of mentioned how tight the MAD was, but Syndicate also had just quite a lot of topsy-turvy, and anyone could win it moments as well. And on the women's side, Lydia Fish took the win. She kind of led from the start, really. It felt like not quite a dominant performance, but definitely felt like she was going to win all weekend. And then Haley Adams coming in second, Daniel Brandon third, and then Janie Chevery, who just missed out. Who it was like, I think there's been quite a lot of media coverage of Danielle's reaction to the last event, kind of making it, because no one really knew what the final outcome was going to be. So yeah, again, some good racing on the women's side, but Lydia looked like she was in charge, certainly throughout the weekend.
Something to reflect on as well, that we mentioned about in the previous episode, is the consistent scoring system. So here in Syndicate as well, it was slightly weighted, but not super weighted scoring system. And I do think that, as you see here, you get exciting races as well happening with that. So I think there's a reflection of the concept of the sport being, consistency within the athletes. I do think that kind of non-weighted scoring system makes sense. Yeah,
although it was really interesting, because I completely agree. But I was watching a couple of the old games documentaries just recently. I don't know why, I kind of went back to them, and I was watching the one from 2020, the COVID one with Matt Fraser, or actually no, I think it was the one when he kind of caught Noah Olsen up, but he beat everyone by like a minute. And he was like, great, I didn't get any extra point. I got like 1 point, whatever it was. It was a small margin of points next to the second place person, and he absolutely dominated them. And I was like, I wonder if you could weight it by the amount you won in a workout instead. So you get like an extra bonus point if you beat people more than a minute or more than a certain time domain or something, if it's a full-time workout, rather than having a winning points weight. It kind of made me think about that, because you don't get rewarded at all for how much you win in CrossFit. Really, just that you win.
Have you heard of the Z scoring system?
No, I don't think so.
So there was a little while, I think it was the guys from Barbell Spin, or some of the guys behind it, and they were really pushing this scoring system that did exactly that. So you'd be rewarded for how you did relative to the field. So let's say you finished first by a long way, you would get that reward because the average of the field is worse. And in the same way, if you only beat someone by 0.5 of a second, even though points-wise that becomes significant, it would then still be calculated relative to the field. So actually the points that you get would not be that much more. And again, it obviously changes leaderboards, but not as much as you would think. It isn't crazy. I like that system because it rewards the work and also demonstrates how close competitions can be. It's just a bit complex to follow because for general population, like this person gets 1 point, this person gets 2 points. Person with the least points wins. You're okay. But then trying, it's complicated enough as it is, and so I think from a pure people who are like deep in the sport, it makes sense, but it might be a bit too complex.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, that's why I was thinking maybe even just like like in rugby, they have a bonus point system if you get over a certain amount of tries. So maybe it's like if you beat someone by a certain amount, it's just a bonus point on the workout. And that way you reward people for going harder. But it's not too complicated. But I mean, I like the sound of the Z scoring system. I hope someone tries it one day just so we can see how it works.
They've put it against different scores, but this is where the Xenon will be interesting as well, because they've like ranked each of their workouts like this new method, and I wonder if how that will play. It'd be really hard to do at each CrossFit competition, because you'd then have to go through each workout and calculate what a perfect score is, and you'd have to get it very accurate, because if one workout is then too biased, it then messes up the whole scoring system. So that's why it'd be interesting to see how Xenon plays out. Like your conditioning stuff, for example, you might have scored it wrong, so you're not able to get enough points, and therefore an athlete comes in who's really strong and you haven't weighted the scoring in the same way. That means that the strength athlete might all of a sudden just completely destroy anyone who's good at conditioning because of the way the scoring's weighted. So it might create all these really weird scenarios of types of athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and back to your earlier point, because we've changed scoring system and season system and all sorts of systems in CrossFit so much over the last decades, I think it's hard to see any evolution, and it is become a bit hard to follow. So hopefully, I mean, if this is the system, we just stick with it and try and iterate it and make it better. But hopefully it does evolve and into some scoring stuff. But like you said, but going back to Syndicate Crown, that it was exciting and Mad. Both had really exciting races. And it was kind of fun to see for the last weekend, just some cool races and some drama. But it did raise the question again back to last chance qualifier and having 7 athletes from both, and why was that not spread across the semi-finals? I think that's a big question that I see not just us talk about, but pretty much everyone in the media space talking about.
Yeah, because no one likes online. So I think that just put everyone like it'd be a lot more rewarding, even for the athletes, spectators, media. Create a lot easier to create stories. This is the last chance. It's like, well, I personally think that all of the online should go anyway. I mean, the biggest hype of the season is about the Open, but it's not because it's an online competition. It's because it's celebrated in the box. It's like an in-person thing. Whereas most box owners don't want people doing the semi-finals and stuff, because it's a crazy amount of work. They have to shut things down if the athlete's serious, etc.
Yeah, for sure. Any surprises out of Syndicate from your side?
It's very impressive to see Lydia Fish come through so well. It's also a relatively dominant performance.
Yeah, I think she's definitely someone on the rise. So she seems to be growing in confidence and growing every time I see her in competition. So yeah. And on the men's side, I think you got someone, Ty Jenkins as well, seems to be someone who's growing into the sport. He had a couple of big events. It was cool to see him go. And poor Nate Ackerman literally fell on a handstand walk. I think it was the final event or the one before the final event, which opened the door to Austin Hatfield. So he was pretty devastated at the end, you could see. But some young guns definitely coming up in the space now.
Yeah, that's it'll be exciting to see. And I think Colton's it's just programming dependent. Like he can smash a competition and not be touchable, then also struggle to qualify. And I think it's just a bit of the nature of the biases.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, team, this has been sorry, John.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to roll.
Yes, exactly. So sorry for the sharp one this week, team. We'll be back next week where we'll cover the online last chance qualifier and have a bit more of a chat from this weekend's coverage. But that's it for us this week. Thank you very much, John, as ever. It's great to speak to you.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll catch you on the next one, team.